Okay, there's that. What I want to do, so we're talking about emotion tonight, and I think of this a little bit differently than I used to, um, even a couple of years ago. And I want to show you a little bit about the way that I'm kind of conceiving of this. So, in our cultural way, we're taught that as a person, we've got ourself, and that's not just a distinct character, right? That's made up of our spirit and our body and our emotions and our mind. Those are the pieces that make up a self. Some people would say soul. And that self or soul is in the balance of spirit, body, emotions, and mind. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. And so I want to present my perspective on emotions, and it might be different than what you've learned, and that's okay. The ask here is just to have an open mind for this perspective, because I do believe that it helps with somatic work. So, as far as emotions go, they are instinctive survival tools. Okay, so the emotions we're talking about are generally these core ones that we think of, like fear, anger, sadness, joy. I think of excitement and shame as um, interesting key emotions. The main ones that um, scratch that, not main ones, but I think of them in sort of different categories. Fear and anger are well suited for protecting us, right? By helping our body be motivated to do things like run and fight. Does that make sense? Okay. And then sadness and joy. Sadness, when that's working really hard, will make us cry. Joy, when that's working really hard, when it's excited, will make us laugh. And those, in terms of how they affect the body, will make our diaphragm contract and relax. Whether it's ha 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 or ho ho ho. Same as excitement, right? Excitement motivates our body to shake, tremble, twitch. And those are the things that happen when our body is coming out of shock. Um, Shame is when we have to shut any of those down. Okay. That, I believe, is all I really wanted to show about that. Are you still with me? Okay, great. So the the idea is that these are instinctive survival tools. Um, we were born knowing how to show certain emotions like sadness. Nobody taught me how to cry or pout as a baby. That's something that I came into the world knowing how to do. Um, and you can see it in other animals, like a deer will run from a prey animal because it is fearful for its life, where say like a wolf, for example, will bare its teeth and growl and chase and bite. It's oh, I guess I'm talking about prey animals there, predators with the deer. Yeah. So instinctively, bodies are motivated by emotion. Um, if, as a human in our development, there were times where emotions weren't going to help us survive and we had to shut them down, then a little bit of our survival instincts have been um, disrupted. that's that's kind of the point of that's the big point of what I'm trying to say is if we never got the chance to feel fear, anger, sadness, joy, excitement, shame, those those instinctive decision making pieces of us didn't get the chance to develop, right? I read recently that in order to be fully adult, we have to have been allowed to be fully a child. And if a piece of our childhood, like our emotional, that piece didn't get to show up, then it hasn't grown up. And so if these days, if our mind is not in charge, then our emotions can just be taking over and trying to insert themselves. And it's not that it's always a bad thing. It's just sometimes it doesn't match what's going on right now. Right? We can have fear show up when there isn't actually any danger. We can have anger show up when we shouldn't actually be fighting. And so, what we want to do now is these days, we're going to be the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at a few of the emotions that can get stuck, traumatized inside of us. And the purpose of that is to develop our relationship with those emotions so that we can know how to use them better to help us. And when emotions show up during somatic work, that's what we want. Those are the ones we want. We want to be able to pay attention to them and allow them all the way in so they can do what they want to do. And then, then they've run their course. They'll help guide us through. And so because of that, we're here learning to notice and make space for emotions. Leanne, how in the world are we going to learn to notice and make space for emotions after all this time?
Oh,
What are we supposed to do?
whatever could we do?
What could we
I'm
possibly
so
do?
glad you asked. I have this tip. So way back when we were learning together a little bit more about emotions, there was a tool that was taught to us. I don't know if anyone's heard it before. It's an acronym called RAIN. Have any of you heard of it before? Tara Brock uses it a lot. Winchester, yes. No, okay. So RAIN, it's supposed to be this kind of radical act of self-compassion. It's supposed to be what you can do when you feel an emotion come up. And I thought it was really helpful, especially as we start to recognize these emotions coming up in us. Oh, this feels like anxiousness, or this feels like, usually what I used to do is, at least if I started to feel anxious, I was so busy trying to get it to go away. I didn't actually listen to the message it was trying to tell me. I just spent time trying to figure out why I couldn't make it go away. And this kind of RAIN acronym is to kind of do the opposite. It's to go a little bit towards it, which in turn actually allows it to tell us what it needs to and perhaps move through us. I'm going to send the full description of RAIN to you in our WhatsApp group, but I just wanted to go through it with you right now. So the acronym RAIN, it stands for, R is for recognize. So it's just to recognize what's going on. And I'll go through each of them separately, but I just want to tell you the words. A is for allow, and that's allowing the experience to be there as it is, which is the tough part for me at times. I stands for investigate with interest and care. I actually add the word curiosity on there too. And N is nurture with self-compassion. So what does this mean? So basically what they want to do when you have a big feeling come up. So let's just say I start to notice I'm getting a little tight in my chest and I'm feeling anxious. So first of all, it's just that. Can I recognize that right now I feel anxious? And can I say that to myself? I'm aware that I'm anxious. That's the first step. And just by being aware you're anxious, you actually do separate and get to look at the anxiety, as we talked about with parts work before. So you're not just kind of molded in with it. You're just all anxious. You're actually watching this, right? The next step after you've recognized that you're anxious is allowing it to be there, this experience just as it is. So what does that mean? Okay, I'm anxious. Okay. You could just be as little as telling yourself, okay, or yes, this belongs right now. And it's sort of just letting it be there without trying to fix and go to work, just letting it land. So I feel anxious. Okay. The next step is investigate with interest and care. And we talked a little bit about the 8 C's, I think. And, if you can get into that place of curiosity, you can really help pull yourself towards your core self. So if you can investigate that feeling, like, oh, what does this anxiety feel like for me? Oh, I do notice this tightness in my chest. I do notice a rapid heartbeat. My toes are curled right now. My head feels full. I actually asking yourselves those things and answering the questions, you've gone into a curiosity about it. What is my body believing right now? And whatever the inquiry, I think your investigation will be most transformational, if you step away from it and bring your feeling to the felt sense in the body, which is what we're trying to learn here, right? And this stuff takes time. Once you've kind of recognized that I feel anxious, allowed it to be there, investigated it with a little bit of interest and care. What does this feel like? What am I believing? The next thing you can do is you can nurture with self-compassion. So like self-compassion can naturally arise in moments if you recognize you're suffering. So even just that recognition of what's going on can start the self-compassion process. And it really comes to fullness as you intentionally nurture your inner life with self-care. So, I imagine we're all very good at doing this for other people, but doing it inside can sometimes take a little bit of work. So to do it, you just kind of want to maybe sense what the wounded or the frightened or the hurting part of you most needs, and then offer maybe a gesture of active care that might address it. Does it need like a message of reassurance, like we're okay, or we are loved, I'm enough, it's not your fault, trust in your goodness? Something that you would say to a little kid that you saw having one of these big emotions, to be able to turn in and say that to you. Actually, even just thinking about doing it, I can feel my heart rate go down and I can feel my shoulders sort of settle, even in a little bit of the anxiety I had with teaching about this. I find Rain so helpful that I feel pressure to make sure I explain it in a way that lands with people. A lot of people not just say these things to themselves, like you're okay or you're good, but they also might put a hand on their heart or feel the feeling of their hands together. You maybe even come to mind something that you love, an animal, a person, a friend, just to kind of bring that love even more. And so when you've completed the process of Rain, it's just important to then notice the quality of that presence you now have with this big emotion that came. It might still be sitting there. It might have been tampered down. It might have even moved through because you gave it space to do so. It sort of kind of breaks us out. I think like it breaks you out of a prison of like, I'm a prisoner to this anxiety, but perhaps instead, like we could expand ourselves and just be part of the anxiety, part of what's going on, and just being present with it. I don't know. How did that sound to people? Did that land? So recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. Those are the steps. And I'll send them to our group.
Yeah, it describes it brilliantly as a process. Gosh, it takes a little bit of practice, hey?
It does. I recognize and it's each step I go, oh, I got recognized now. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, next, allow. Okay. It's the steps. But if you practice them, if you go, oh, today I'm going to grab a couple emotions and do it, I think it's so good. Yeah. Oopsie, I just lost my screen there. There we go. And so, for that part, I'm done. I don't know. Do you want to go into the body fullness practice?
Sounds good.
Who did we lose here? My